Hello and welcome to EVN Talks. I'm Rubina Margosian. I'm the managing editor, and it's always so exciting for me to be doing this podcast because I get to meet people I wouldn't know about otherwise. As Armenians, we often think that we more or less know every successful Armenian or well-known Armenian or every Armenian that's out there, being broadcast, and well, we don't.
There's a lot of us, so it's hard to get
well,
all
luckily,
of them
that's a
down.
good thing. That's a good problem to have. Too many successful people that we don't know about. My guest today is Jon Najarian. He's a highly respected financial expert, co-founder of Market Rebellion, a leading platform for investment education and options trading intelligence. That is all online, and we're not going to talk so much about it
Sure, that's
today.
fine.
Well, he spent 25 years as a professional trader on the Chicago Board Options Exchange and is a regular contributor to several media organizations, including having your own.
Yep.
He's also the co-founder of TradeMonster, and he's now in Armenia on his
My maiden voyage.
voyage.
Yeah. And I love it. Yeah, I've enjoyed it like crazy. It's a long trip to get here, as everybody knows, but
Well, there's just a tiny ocean in between.
just a tiny one, and half of a continent. But it was well worth it.
What brings you to Armenia? And why so?
Sure. I
So
wanted
long.
to come for a long time, but just like everybody, it's life is busy and a lot of things happening. Finally, the stars aligned and I was able to get away for a week because it's not worth it to come for a really short time. I wish it was a month instead of a week.
A week is a really short time.
It is. I won't be able to see as much as I want to see. But my daughter, Tristan, really had been pushing for Armenia. She kept on me about Azerbaijan and Armenia and the war and this and that. And she really thought that I should come here and see it in person. And so I have only seen a small part of Yerevan even. I haven't seen the whole country, of course, but I'm really taken with it and I love it.
Jon, I often wonder because we speak about the diaspora and we speak about our people with Armenian heritage and their relationship to the heritage. And we often say, a lot of Armenians don't even speak Armenian, therefore we're losing them. And I always get this impression that, it's an observation, not an impression, that it takes several, that's ups and downs with your connection to your Armenian heritage. You might miss a generation or two, but that it always comes back.
Yeah.
Well, looking at you, talking to you, I wouldn't think you are, but then your daughter is very connected to Armenia, and your grandfather and your father were also kind of very prominent figures in the community, especially your grandfather. There's little information about it online, unfortunately. I wish there was more because one
Me
of
too.
the biggest schools, Armenian schools in the diaspora at one point ever, with almost 2,000 students, which is a big deal for Armenian schools, coming from the Middle East myself and having gone to those schools, was established by your grandfather.
Yeah,
As we're
my
talking about
great-grandfather.
great-grandfather.
Yep, correct.
And do you know if the school is still there? Because I know it's in Syria. We're talking about AGBU, Lazar Najarian, Calouste Gulbenkian School. I know what I found was that it went from being the biggest to having only several hundred students because of war, situation in Syria, and general situation in the Middle East, so to speak. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because the school itself deserves a more coverage.
Yeah, it does, I'm sure. And I would be embarrassed to say I don't know if it still exists. I hope it does. My great-grandfather contributed a lot of money and his time to the school, but that was, more than a century ago when he was doing that.
Yeah, the school opened in 1954. And it's interesting to see his name next to Calouste Gulbenkian because that's one of the biggest foundations, and the work that the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation has done for the Armenians across the world is impressive, and we should be very thankful for a lot of the preservation of the language and education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my great grandfather, one of the reasons that he founded the school, or co-founded, however it came about, was of course out of love of his Armenian heritage and wanting to give back. But also, my father didn't marry an Armenian woman, and so he said, "I'm not leaving any money to you."
Oh,
he says,
did that
"I'm
happen?
giving it all to the school because my mother." So my father in San Francisco, he was a resident and a surgeon, and met my mother, who was a surgical nurse. She was from Minnesota, and she's Swedish, 100% Swedish. So when the great-grandfather found, like you say, 54, I was born in 57. So when the great-grandfather found out that my father wasn't marrying an Armenian girl, he says, "I'm giving all my money to the school."
And that's exactly what he did. And
So all of you students that have graduated from there should be happy that my father married a Swedish girl, Swedish woman, Mignette, Arlis Viola Mignette,
well,
my mother.
Sounds sarcastic, but it is a win-win situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love conquered on one end, and then
Exactly
also an institution was established on the other.
Right. And as Warren Buffett would say, it's not always the greatest thing to give so much wealth to your family. I mean, it's a great thing if you do it correctly, but you can limit their growth by saying, okay, well, you're set for life now. What would that mean? Completely different lifestyle for you then. Maybe you don't have the drive to come here and be managing editor if somebody had given you that much money or whatever.
It would be a good problem for me.
It's a nice problem to have. I
yes.
think we'd all like to have the problem. I'd like to have that problem, but yeah.
Do you feel like that regarding your children and the way you want them to interact with the world?
I do. Although I will mainly do things through trusts and so forth with my daughters. But I think that you would limit how much they would push themselves if they just knew, oh, well, I was born on, as the saying goes, the lucky sperm club. I was just so lucky that my mother, my father, my grandmother, my grandfather left me all this money. So now I can just go around and go to Ibiza and, hang out and do drugs and all the, I know this isn't every story, but too many of them, I think, are that you don't hit your potential if you don't have to push yourself. And that's a waste of some of your life anyway.
Do you see some of your great-grandfather's actions have impacted your own trajectory in life because you've kind of really made, gone forward and been successful in so many domains, and you keep going? And is this also a founding kind of a philosophy in this drive-in?
It could be. I don't know. Again, if he had left his money instead of to the university, to my father and his brothers, I don't know what it would have been like. Instead, when I never knew how much money my family had. My father worked hard. He was a very successful surgeon, chief of surgery.
And an athlete like yourself, you kind of...
Yep. He was a multi-sport athlete at the University of California. He played in the Rose Bowl, which in the United States, of course, is like one of the pinnacle football games you can play in as a player. And so he did that, then went on to become a surgeon and did more...
Transplant surgeon at a time when...
Exactly.
That was the cutting-edge innovation in healthcare.
More kidney transplants than anybody in the world. Over 5,000, I believe, kidney transplants, liver transplants, pancreas transplants. Pioneered a lot of these techniques for doing those things, and developed drugs that kept patients from rejecting the organ that was put in. So obviously, very proud of him and all the success and all the lives that he saved and touched. But at the same time, we lived, I guess, middle class, maybe upper middle class in San Francisco and then in Minneapolis when he became chief of surgery. but I never knew how much money he made. I never asked. We always had enough. But when I signed a football contract with the Bears, he said, "Okay, Jon, who's the highest paid athlete in football?" And I said, he's on my team. It's Walter Payton. He makes $600,000 a year. And he said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Why do you ask?" And he said, "I was just wondering because I make more than that." So that was I was 22 years old, first time I knew how much money he made. And my mom heard him say it too. And so she said, "Oh, okay. I'm going to start spending some money now then." Yeah. And these days, of course, football players, most of them make more than that every Sunday. Every Sunday, for 17 weeks a year. Just like soccer players or F1 drivers, they make an incredible amount of money, pro athletes, because of TV. And, how many...
Yes, of course. But I also wanted to ask about, you've spoken about this a lot, your transition from being an athlete to the world of finances is not necessarily a very organic transition that we see very often.
True.
But you speak a lot about the drive and about the excitement and both of them being this contact impact kind of situations that are exciting. And you've spoken about how exciting it is to make money.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly what you're touching on is it's just like applause. So it's not so much you're seeing more zeros in your bank account, but it's each time you have a winning trade, it's like you're hearing a crowd cheer. So when you're a football player or an athlete of any sort, if the crowd is cheering and they're behind you, there's nothing like that. Nothing like that, especially if it's I was lucky enough to play in front of 70, 80,000 people in a stadium. And if you make a play and they're all applauding, that's fantastic. You try not to let your ego get out of control, but I can only imagine.
You should a little bit.
Yeah.
No?
I can only imagine what Tom Brady or, big superstars, which I was not. But I can imagine how that feels for them. And that's why he couldn't quit. He has a beautiful wife and family. They wanted him to retire after several, successful Super Bowls and
enough
all the rest.
Zeros.
And he said, "No, I only have so many times in this life to hear that. So I'm going to keep doing it." And it ended up costing him his family. But for me, when I found that trading gave you that similar sort of thrill, that acknowledgement of your success, and you get it every time you trade, and knock
you
on
trade
wood.
Successfully.
Yeah, well, most of the time.
Yeah.
None of us are 100% of the time, but so if I make 1,000 trades in a day, which I used to do that every day for, from 1981 until 2004. So for 23 years, every day, you're making thousands of trades. Some of them you're making money. Some of them you're cutting your losses quick and moving to the next trade because of the discipline that it takes. But on all those winning trades, it's just like bang, 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 bang. It just is a feeling that's hard to describe. But it's great, and it's why I did it for so many years.
Well, also because why you did it so many years and for so many years and you were successful, I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to make
Sure.
use of your ability to try to ask you something regarding this. Well, you've learned to read tendencies by reading markets. You've learned to make predictions, and you learned to be more correct about these predictions than mistaken, or else you wouldn't be successful.
True.
Looking at Armenia right now, because a lot of the time we also lack this outside look, the caring outside look, not the cold outside look, not the indifferent one, but also the caring outside look that could also predict, in a way, sense possible scenarios for Armenia. Do you have a sense of what the future of Armenia, what the potential is, what the main spots are that we need to work more carefully towards or be more considerate or
Sure.
Is there, especially when it comes to the economy, for example, I don't know if you're the right person to ask here, how well you know the workings of the economy in Armenia, but because we're doing fine, but then we really don't know if it's a bubble and it might burst.
Well, first of all, I don't think Armenia's in a bubble. And I think, obviously a lot of resources were drained during the war with Azerbaijan. And that happens with every country when they have a war going on. They have to have priorities then. How much money gets diverted to the war effort versus to the people at home. But you have to support your people once you put them in harm's way. Once you send them off to war, you have to support them. And in the case of the United States, obviously the United States spends a lot of money on defense, more than any country, more than most of the rest of the world combined, because they view it as so important. But as far as Armenia, I would say the education, I joked in a way with a number of my friends in Chicago when I was living there that all of the successful people in Chicago send their kids to private schools. Why? Because we spend so many billions of dollars on schools in Chicago, but they're terrible. So the poor, and they don't have to be poor, they could be middle class, but they just can't afford the higher end schools. Because to give you an idea, it might be $50,000 a year for kindergarten at a private school. And it's free, of course, if you just go to the public schools. But as I would say to my friends, but the public schools don't prepare them for anything. So they're behind on everybody. And there's only so many years before robots do the job that these kids at public schools are only qualified for, because they can't do math. They can't do complicated decision making. They don't speak English very well, and in the United States, that's kind of important. So nobody's going to hire them for a lot of these jobs. So it's unfair, but all of the kids that go to private schools then are going to be the people that run the country. They're going to be the people that get to make decisions on
Which has been a case for centuries.
For centuries, absolutely. But
but
I think it has changed so significantly that the public schools in the United States, anyway, have been so hurt by this. I mean, my wife and I, we support something called Jobs for Youth, as well as a number of other outreach programs for kids in the inner city to learn how to program, to learn how to do more complicated math and things like that. And they don't pay a cent. It's all free. It's all from people like us and many, many other families supporting this kind of thing. But otherwise, those poor kids in the inner city, in urban areas of Chicago, they're not prepared for anything. No one will hire them because, again, if you can't speak proper English, you're not going to work at J.P. Morgan. You're never going to make the salary that somebody makes at J.P. Morgan. And the jobs at McDonald's are going away because, again, now there are kiosks. You go into a McDonald's and you press what you want. You type it out on the keyboard, basically a touch screen, and the kids are only making change. That's all they're doing. There's burger flipping machines, robots in the back. There's fry machines that are operating on their own without human.
So education has been a passion of yours, something that you would support, and you think in Armenia's context also...
I was taking a long-winded way to get there, but you're right. So what is important for Armenia? Education. So when I looked at Armenia and what it costs to hire people here versus what it costs to hire them in the United States, again, the ones in the United States, there's almost nobody from inner city that you're hiring for tech jobs, unless they went to, like I say, the sort of school we backed, like IC Stars or Jobs for Youth. These are two that we supported, my wife and I, in Chicago, that get kids up to speed to where they can make $50,000, $60,000 a year, and then they're in a position to influence all their neighbors. Well, this kid made it, and you guys are all in gangs, or you're working at a McDonald's, and how long is that job going to be around again? Because automation takes
We
all
talk a
these-
lot about population numbers. We're saying we're only slightly less than 3 million people. It can't get that bad as far as education, because it's something, it's a different story educating a country, everyone in a country like America, but with only 3 million people, and with initiatives like TUMO that exist in Armenia and so many other initiatives, maybe we're in a safer hands and in a more manageable situation where we can actually address the problem effectively and within a generation not have issues. I'm not even sure that we do have the same kind of issues as the ones you're talking about.
Right. I think you're the opposite. And that's why I say, that's one of the growth areas for Armenia, because when you look at countries that have an educated populace, all these other countries want to hire those people, even if it's remote work. And one of the only good things that ever happened during COVID was remote work. For some of us, it was tough because, you don't have human interaction. You're all online. It's Zoom meetings and things like that. But on the other hand, you're able to tap into resources like Armenia, where there's an English-speaking population, as well as, of course, Armenian-speaking. But so many people in Armenia speak 3 languages: Western Armenian, Eastern Armenian, English,
some Russian,
other
languages,
Russian,
yes. Right.
But I mean, so that is one of the things that will set Armenia apart. Is that education. So I think Armenia is doing those things right. I can't vouch for every school in Armenia, but from what I've seen and from what I've heard from employers here, when you hire somebody, they have the skills to do the job. And that's critical. In the United States, that's not the case. Like I said, it's in some states, there's good public schools. In Illinois, outside of Chicago, there are good public schools. In the city of Chicago, it's terrible. 400,000 kids a year are getting, they can't read. They barely can get through school, and then gangs get them, or, other bad things happen to them.
I think for the rest of
terrible.
The world, it's not always very clear how different America can be and how multi-layered American cultures and situations are. For the rest of the world, it's usually one country, one view. But I always have to remind myself that America is such a big country that you cannot generalize one opinion, and it's several countries within one if you think about it.
It is.
But
still.
Your vision for your relationship with Armenia and your vision for your relationship with Armenianness, in a way, that would be my last question.
Okay.
Because it's always fascinating to see that this new motion towards heritage or country or the Republic of Armenia taking shape in people who were not necessarily brought up in this Armenian community, Armenian language speaking, were not force-fed Armenian culture in a way. And I'm not saying it in a bad way or a good way, because a lot of Armenians end up being trapped in the Armenianness and would like to get out of it. You seem to have the opposite situation where you're coming into it. So in this sense, my question is what your vision for your relationship with the country and the culture.
Okay. Well, so I was born in San Francisco, grew up with a lot of Armenians in San Francisco, Haratunians and all kinds of Armenian names that I know well, some of whom hopefully will listen to this podcast. But between San Francisco and Oakland, I met so many Armenians when I was growing up. I lived there till I was 12. And then we moved to Minneapolis. You wouldn't think Minneapolis had that many Armenians, but it did. It had a ton of Armenians. And so we would go to Armenian cultural events at big stadiums and things like that. And granted, some of the people that came were not Armenian. They just wanted to see what's all this about.
They just were interested in the food.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They wanted the baklava and the kufta and all the rest of it. They wanted all that, and that's a popular way to introduce people to Armenia. And So now, as an adult, my daughter Tristan was really pushing, and my daughter Finola wanted me to go explore Armenia so that they could come here, so that they might be able to
You've
become
been delegated
citizens.
to Armenia
yes.
by your daughters.
Yes. Yes.
To kind of check the situation.
Yeah.
And inform.
Because they informed me about what was going on, like I say, tragically with the war with Azerbaijan and so forth. And they said, Dad, you should get your citizenship, because I have American citizenship, and through my wife, I have Irish citizenship. So I already have two. And they're like, well, you should get Armenian citizenship too. And so they said, you should be proud of the Armenian side. And I said, I am. And they said, well, then go get it. So I met with the ambassador in D.C. Just a week ago and started my paperwork to get Armenian citizenship, which, as you know, and
Everyone
many of your
knows
listeners
it's
know,
gonna be
it's a
road.
long process. You have to fill out a lot of things about your baptism and about your mother and grandmother and grandfather, and get all these papers together. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's a lot, and I'm looking forward to it. And then there's the possibility that I'll like to bring some of that back to the United States then. And so a friend of mine is an honorary consul from Lithuania, and he said, John, you should try to do that from Armenia and be an honorary consul somewhere in the United States, whether it's New York or Chicago or Puerto Rico. I live in Puerto Rico now, and I love them. They're great people, and believe it or not, there are a lot of Armenians there too.
And
it's
it
not
would be
thousands.
great to have a council there.
Yeah, but I mean,
honorary
it's
consul.
fun, and someday you'll come and visit, and I look forward to that. But yeah, it's something I'm really looking forward to, is getting more involved with Armenia here, as well as through perhaps the AGBU and other institutions back in the United States.
Thank you very much, and I hope this conversation continues, your visits continue. Good luck with your citizenship application.
Thank
It's
you.
actually
I need it.
a little bit tiresome, but not as complicated. And a side note, you can always get rebaptized if you don't have your baptism papers.
Oh, that's a trick she just taught me, folks.
Yes. Well, that was all for this meeting.
Thank you.
Hope to see
It's
you
my
again.
pleasure.